Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut, no, live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below the video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, Refracted Curvature, Brian's Logic, the Adam Meakin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Greetings, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So we've all been enjoying a really nice little love-in the pre-show, for those of you who watch it after the fact, discussing our feelings and emotions. It's all been very, what's the word? Very hippified.
Yay.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Let's get into a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence that you can have an elevation angle acquired from a curved adjacent?
Well, you could probably do it, but can you really use it to explore?
No, probably you could do it. It's impossible.
No, you couldn't. Yeah, right, Adam, go ahead, sorry.
It's geometry statement. Angles are formed with straight lines. You can't form an angle with a curved line. Computer says no, if you remember.
Yeah, Baldwin, you're going to have to give up on this one. This is never going to be an argument that you adopt and adapt into something that can concisely rumpus this point. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, but I'm only basically moving towards you within the argument because terrestrial refraction already fixes it because it makes it optically flat, which is really what you need. But you could still make an angle. It's just going to sit against the globe, so you're not going to be able to really use it for exploration or anything.
Yeah, that's the same exact thing. Adam, do you want to just repeat what you said again?
Geometry requires two straight lines to form an angle. Whatever you're going to do with that curve on, and whichever point on that curve you're going to assume, yeah, you're not able to generate an angle. The only way you can generate an angle is to draw another straight line from it to the point on the arbitrary point on the curve you've decided represents something.
You want to give it a third go?
Yeah.
You're going to give it a third go, Arwin?
I think that's just all poppycock. I think it's possible.
That would be a hand wave dismissal fallacy.
You just don't understand.
That would be an ad hominem fallacy.
You just keep on naming fallacies. It doesn't prove anything.
What?
It proves you're using fallacious reasoning.
No, he didn't know what to say back. Haha, gotcha.
Oh, okay.
It's about the definition of angle to use a curved adjacent. That's the point, right?
Yeah, the clue's in the title.
Whereas Wally yesterday commented on your comment on yesterday's video, your video from the show, Nathan. He said 22 hours ago, where's Wally? Love that you guys think you need two straight lines. A sextant measures the angle between 2 points, the third point being at the sextant. No flat surfaces in all capitals needed. And earlier on, I asked him, I didn't even look to see if he replied because it didn't matter. I said, so what's the horizon mirror for? And what's dip and height of y correction? You know, it's no, why would you be, what's the point of the sextant then? What is the point of anything you're doing? It's like his whole comment is denying horizontal.
Why do you subtract from 90 then?
Oh, hold on.
Yeah.
Before you get to subtracting from 90. So, in the first sentence, correct me if I'm wrong, I've only heard you say it just now, but you said when measuring an angle. That was the first part. Can you just read it again, that first bit, please?
Yeah. He just stresses his words. Love, he just starts off with that word, love. Love that you guys think you need two straight lines. That's his first line. And then a sextant measures the angle between 2 points.
Perfect. Stop.
Yeah.
A sextant measures the angle. So he loves the fact that we think you need straight lines, and then he goes on to describe an angle. What is an angle?
Two straight lines.
Two straight lines meeting at a vertex.
Yep.
So he's saying, I find it amusing, you think you need straight lines, and then he goes on to describe an angle, which is very specifically two straight lines. What an idiot.
Yeah, he's a prize Wally.
Yeah, he's Dunning-Kruger. Where's Wally? You know, he doesn't realise how stupid he is. Go ahead, 10th.
Well, yeah, 90. When he gets his two straight lines, when he gets that angle, the next part is to subtract from 90 so that you can get the co-altitude. So 90, that's a right angle. That's a right triangle. Like all the books I've got from their site say it's that. So yes, you do have a baseline. It is a 90 degree and you get an angle. Your vertical angle is different than your horizontal angle. The horizontal angle is the one the sextant gives you right off the bat because you're using the natural sea horizon where dip correction is needed, or a bubble sextant or an artificial horizon. Then the complementary is your vertical angle. But you can't get your vertical angle on the boat because that plumb bob would be going all over the place. So you use the steady horizon to get the elevation angle. You subtract that from 90, now you got your vertical angle. It's that simple, Wally.
Well, hold on a sec. Is it really necessary for us to answer these people anymore, or should we just let them?
Oh, it's absolutely, definitely not necessary for us to address this, but Brian's brought it up, and the farcical nature of his claim is to deny that angles need straight lines. It's absolutely preposterous. Dunning-Kruger example.
Right. But like if I said, I love the fact you guys think you need an animal to get meat. I'm going to go enjoy a steak. People would laugh at me, right?
That is the very literal equivalent of what is done. I love how you guys think straight lines are required when measuring two straight lines meeting at a vertex. That's what he's doing. And yeah, good comparison.
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of laughable now. I mean, it's
yeah.
Just,
if it was somebody more intelligent, I'd say he was just a liar. But he's not. He's Dunning-Kruger. You can't attribute malice to this because he's just thick.
It's not exactly on the sextant, but it's on angles, right? I've had Wolfie in the past few days, right? They all have angle issues. I've had him tell me, when I've asked him, I said, right, what is the +3 or 4 degrees of the nose of the aircraft above? He says, it's a thing called relative wind, I think it is, if I remember the phrase correctly. It's above the air that's coming straight at him, basically. That's what he's saying. He says, I don't address or use horizontal at all. I said, how do you know what pitch you're at? It's whatever pitch is above the air that's coming straight at me, basically, is what he said. I mean, he's just like, I know I can look online at anything to do with the angle of attack in aviation. And every one of them will state 3 to 4 degrees above horizontal. But he's denying horizontal exists when he's in his airplane.
Would he go straight towards the ground in an updraft then?
Like, I know what he's saying. What he's talking about is what I think called, if I remember right, it's called relative wind, right? But relative wind is your horizontal. If I remember correctly, it's your horizontal. Like, airplanes have to fly with the nose they fly, well, with the chord line of the wings above horizontal, which brings the nose above horizontal to go in a horizontal. They can't go in a horizontal without flying with the nose and with the chord line, and obviously the nose has to follow the chord line above horizontal. They can't fly horizontally without that. and that's why they have the nose above horizontal. But
Brian.
Wolfie is denying. I just want to say this, Ted. Wolfie is denying that horizontal exists when he's up in his airplane. Go on, Ted. Sorry.
Brian, what's the purpose of all the instrumentation on an airplane when you can't see outside? Like, for example, the gyro and all the other things that shows where you are and if you're tilting or not tilting. What's the purpose of those things then?
Yeah, the attitude indicator. What's the purpose of that? I mean, does that not reference horizontal? I mean, what's the purpose of anything? I mean, if you're going to pretend that horizontal doesn't exist when you're in your airplane, what is the purpose of anything? You may as well turn off, get rid of all of them. Put tape over them so you can't see them. What's the point of any of these things?
Well, we got a big problem there because in an airplane with a bubble section, you're getting horizontal. And they're saying to the pilot, keep the plane steady while I do this. And the navigator has to do it over 2 minutes because the plane is bobbing a little bit. And over 2 minutes, they get, I think it's every 10 seconds, it takes a reading. And then they culminate all those readings and get the average because the plane could be hitting rough air. But that's all about horizontal. So if they can get a sextant with a bubble to be horizontal, you mean the plane isn't?
Yeah, but this is the thing. You may as well just stop looking at your instrumentation altogether. What's the point? If you're going to pretend horizontal doesn't exist, then you just, playing with a deck of cards that you just threw up in the air, like.
Well, that's the whole.
How can you do that?
Well, that's the whole point of the sextant in an airplane. It's some of them have a vertical bubble and then also the horizontal bubble, so that you can get them all lined up, so that you have your 90 basically. I mean, it's so stupid.
Yeah, and
right.
Didn't Charles? Sorry, John, just 1 second. Didn't Charles flat out Matt? Didn't I hear that he agreed that just creates a horizontal, and it's a bubble level, so it's level and horizontal according to Charles are now the same thing.
Yeah.
But they all need to have a conversation with each other, a massive group conversation, because none of them can get in line with the person next to them.
Well, this is what I was saying.
What happens when your argument falls apart?
Yeah, John, and that's what we were talking in the pre-show when Righteous brought up the back and forth he and I had with Nathan, and that's the sextant killed them, and now they're lying about how a sextant works, and that's the arguments are on that, and they're just being made to look foolish. I mean, now they say you can't have a horizontal in the airplane, but on Earth they don't want you to have dip correction to the horizon, so they say no, it's really the horizontal angle on Earth. Well, which is it?
If Wolfie is really a pilot, I mean, he might be, I don't know. I couldn't imagine him walking into another group of pilots and telling them that horizontal didn't exist. They'd laugh him out of the room.
Yeah, he only does it here because he is a pilot more than likely. It's just that he lies over here, but he can't do it, like you said, with his compadres.
Well, the thing about it is that the Charles flat earth math did agree that the bubble sextant creates a horizontal, right? It creates a horizontal, because that's what it does. So according to Wolfie, that horizontal, I mean, that would mean that the bubble sextant could be pointing down, up, at any, I'm going to say the word angle, you know what I mean, in accordance to his airplane, because horizontal doesn't exist in his airplane. So when someone establishes a horizontal with a bubble sextant in an airplane that he's flying, I mean, that horizontal won't be in line with what they call relative. I think the name is relative wind. It'll just be. It won't be like parallel with the ground, or it won't be like parallel with the direction of the airplane. But the airplane will be going in any particular direction, in any pitch, because it not matters because there is no horizontal.
No. This argument is much tighter than that. When the navigator in an airplane is using a bubble sextant, the pilot.
No, you're missing what I was saying.
No, I agree with you.
What I'm saying is, how could he use a bubble sextant in his airplane, and the bubble be going like the sextant create a horizontal in the same direction as he's flying? If he's not going, if pitch has nothing to do with angle, with horizontal.
I'm totally agreeing with you and validating your point. So the navigator is going to tell the pilot, "Okay, I'm going to do a sextant reading." What do you think the pilot's doing? keeping the airplane level and steady as possible for 2 minutes while he takes those multiple sights. Duh.
But that's the whole point of the chord line being above. Like, the whole point is that the reason the airplane flies at a pitched up angle is so it can fly in a horizontal straight line. That's how they fly.
Well, I'm never flying with Wolfie.
Okay, let's move on. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Well, I do have evidence.
You
Call a
have
right
evidence.
angle.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a right angle.
That's not evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon.
No, but it's evidence that it exists mathematically.
What?
It's evidence that the geometric horizon of the globe exists mathematically.
Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Negative.
But I can
Well,
show you a
hold
right
on.
You're
angle.
going to need a flat plane for that.
Hold
Well,
on. Brian, I think he's going somewhere. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, well, I can show you a right angle, if that's any good to you.
Not for a physical geometric... Why are you, Baldwin? What's going on?
I'm just saying that's as close as you want to get to a geometric horizon, because they built it
no,
off.
that's a flat
mathematically.
plane.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
it.
flat plane.
Exactly, John. That's a flat plane you're describing. What are you... I don't understand where Brian's going with this, so I'm going to move
Yeah,
on.
because that's where the claim of the geometric horizon came from. So the only evidence that there is a physical geometric horizon
I
is
see.
that we have right angles.
I see. What Brian's saying is, in order to claim that there is, mathematically, a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, which would make it non-physical and only existent in the maths, but there we go. In order to claim it, you first need a flat plane and a 90-degree measurement. I think that's what you're driving at, right, Brian? So the 90-degree would be proof that you can move forward from the flat plane to claim a globe. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the only physical proof that there's a geometric horizon at all is a flat plane.
But that doesn't give you a physical... We're going round in circles. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
You're going to need a flat plane for that.
And an R value that they'll require a flat plane to get. Right, John?
Yeah, it's pretty bad, but it's over.
So John made quite a good analogy in the pre-show about jumping from the Titanic just before it hit the iceberg in terms of being a glober on that journey, the globe Earth journey being comparable to the Titanic, and then jumping off, or for some reason it descended into fast and he got on a helicopter. But nevertheless, just before it hit the iceberg, John's jumping off because this sort of argument with elevation angle is the death of the globe.
How do you
That's
know
what
it hit an iceberg?
Well, the black swan was somebody pointing out there was an iceberg ahead. That's what
How
the black
do you
swan
know?
was.
Neil, you're rumpusing
How do I
him.
know the Titanic?
How do you know the Titanic hit
Who
an iceberg?
cares? We're talking about flat Earth and you're discussing whether the Titanic's real. Probably not. Who cares?
Okay, if the story about the Titanic is real, in analogy, just in analogy, damn it, then the black swan was the navigator looking through binoculars and saying, "There's a huge iceberg ahead," and that's when I got out.
Technically, he said, iceberg, dead ahead!
Just in case he was measuring how big that iceberg was, would he need a flat plane to do it?
Yes, yeah, he was using a flat plane.
The
Joy.
iceberg was the flat plane. Sorry.
Indeed.
Good one, Brian.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I'm happy to report it's over there.
If you're going to
No,
use
but-
elevation angles to assert any kind of distance, you'll need a flat plane for that.
That's right. They are going to need a flat plane for that elevation angle measurement to the sun to make claims of a sphere Earth. Isn't it epic?
While you're choking, how did you miss that, what Brian just said?
Look, I wasn't going to mention that I'm really ill and was yesterday because it shows weakness.
They're going to need, thank you, Neil, they're going to need the one-way speed of light to be measured for their claim.
Well, let's move on to any scientific evidence of gravity.
You got to be joking me. That's like the biggest joke outside of the molten iron core. What a farce.
But you can think of it as a force.
You can think of it as a farce.
But I do give you permission. You can, if you choose to, think of gravity as a force. I'll express the same permission that George Musa expressed to his Fundy followers. Is that not good enough, Brian? You're not going to be thinking of it as a force as a result of me telling you that you can think of it as a force? I give you permission and all that? Is that not good enough?
It's a farce.
He
Math
said farce,
attracting
not
math.
force.
I said
It's
force.
a farce. Math attracting math.
I'm
If-
going to give you permission, Nathan, to treat it as a farce.
Oh, well, thank you very much. We can give each other
And I
permission
think
for this
you'll
sort of
be
stuff all
more
day.
successful than me. Sorry. Yeah, we can give each other permission all day. I think you'll be more successful than me. I'm getting the raw deal here.
Oh,
we're
I
gonna
got
need-
this one.
Go on.
It's an invalid description using a flat plane to acquire R to assert a phenomenon that no one has ever seen.
Ace.
As you mentioned it, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth only bested in terms of its ludicrousness by gravity, according to Brian. Is ludicrousness actually a word?
It should be.
No? No takers on the molten iron core? It amazes
Well,
me,
you're
really.
going to need a flat. You're going to need a flat plane because you're going to need to have an R value and all this sort of stuff. That all requires elevation angles and a flat plane and Polaris and all that. GP.
If you're going to say ludicrous, then you know it's a wrap.
Boom!
And Nathan, you can give people permission to say the word ludicrousness.
Oh, you can think about it as being ludicrousness. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
How did it get there?
One more time. Was it George? Elbow?
How did it get there?
How did what get where?
The molten iron.
It didn't. You know, the only reference that we see at the moment, Elbow, to the centre of Earth is when they draw a flat plane so that they can derive celestial spheres and move angle measurements that are taken on that flat plane depicted at the centre of a sphere to the outside edge of the celestial sphere they've hijacked when measuring elevation angles off a flat plane. So they don't have a centre of Earth with a molten iron core. They have a centre of Earth that's a flat plane with a celestial sphere above it and angle measurements that need a flat plane to get them.
I think he was wanting to hear the story.
I actually know how it got there to answer his question.
Oh, you're talking about Thea.
So do I.
Oh, you want to talk about Thea? Go ahead.
No. I'll explain it. Okay, so how it works is you take a piece of paper, you put it into a printer machine, then you print a graphic onto that, and the graphic shows that there's a molten iron core in the graphic. There's the answer.
No. So what they do is they tell you a little story along with that graphic, which is of a fledgling Earth smaller than the one we currently exist on in the heliocentric model. So snuggle down for this wonderful little story that they made up themselves, because on a imminent trajectory for impact was a planet called Thea, and that planet smashed into Earth at a glancing blow, depositing its molten iron core into what then became Earth. The debris then coalesced to form our moon. That's why you get wood. Well, let's not go there. Anyway, get wood from moon landings landing in Antarctica. Anyway, that aside, that's their story. The backstory is a planet in the heliocentric model that would require a flat Earth to make the assertion of the model in the first instance, smashed into Earth, depositing its molten iron core, allowing them to actually have an extended time period for the cooling, which would have taken place on Earth had they not come up with this ad hoc explanation for Thea smashing into Earth, making the core bigger. There you go. And it's true because they made it up themselves. And
Yeah, you could bring out a children's book of globe tales.
Yeah.
I should have brought a blanket and hot cocoa so I could fall asleep.
One more time, Elbow. You're really unclear.
I should have brought in a blanket and hot cocoa.
A blanket and cocoa. Right, for the heliocentric story time about their religion. Yeah, it's just a religious story. It's a fable. That's all it is. It's just a story to go along with the religion. Well, that religion required a flat plane to derive it. Just so you know. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon, for all the fundies who believe the sky is a vacuum called space.
Well, that claim isn't relying on R, but it would require a container.
I don't know if you're right there, because it's got sphere-shaped air in it, right? As part of the...
No, that's only after you make the assertion of atmosphere.
So you're saying the sky vacuum doesn't require the assertion of atmosphere? Okay, fair enough.
No, you need a container to have gas pressure. But when they say that the atmosphere is containing the gas, that's when they would need an R value.
I see. Yeah, correct.
Well, they do state that gravity is what's containing the gas and making a pressure gradient. So gravity would require an R value and would require a flat plane. So the only evidence for what they're saying is a right angle.
Can you remind us why gravity would require a flat plane, please, Brian?
Well, you need a flat plane to create the globe's R value, and gravity requires that R value. Force of gravity definitely requires it.
Both of them do.
So does Einstein. Go on, sorry.
I was going to just say both gravities require a radius. You get to calculate mass of Earth.
So in both instances, with both gravities, they're going to require that derive a flat surface-based R value. So therefore, gravity requires an R value to get to the R that both gravities need. So they're going to need a flat plane for that gravity. Epic!
Yeah, that's already jumping assumptions in their own model. You don't need an R value for gravity. You only need an R value for heliocentric assumptions about gravity. They can't even keep it coherent in their own model. Like they'll always say, oh, what makes things fall down? Well, obviously gravity, right? But down is not the same as inwards. They're inferring inwards and then reverse engineering their thing to match it. Nobody observes inwards anything. At least on the Earth, things either go up or down. And that's how we describe it. We don't describe it as inwards and outwards.
When they assert that gas goes down, go boom boom, enter clown. Dun 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 dun, releasing a balloon.
Oh, absolutely. They'll say gas goes down, right? But what they really mean when they say that is gas goes inward.
Yeah.
They're imposing their philosophy into their own words.
Yeah, they're saying gas goes to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth with an R value that requires a flat Earth to get. Yeah, it's all very good. I like this argument. It's good. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet.
Not yet. They're not had enough time.
Or they just haven't attempted it yet.
And yet they call themselves science.
More like Smurfs.
Nathan, there hasn't been sufficient time to cause that effect yet. Since time causes all things, you need a certain amount of time before you get certain effects. It's called emergent time effects. Okay, I know this because I went to the future after enough time has passed, and I'm here to tell you how it works from the heliocentric future.
Okay. Well, as far as a scientific definition of what your natural phenomena, that's an effect that you've just described, would be, the first thing it needs to be is an observed effect, i.e. you've got to see it happening. So it's not the case that you can say, well, with time, this effect will occur. No. In order to science something, you've got to have an effect actually observed. It's not an effect until it's an observed effect.
And they do observe effects. They just can't claim a cause through a scientific hypothesis.
That's right. They've got plenty of observed phenomena. You look at a star and it does something. Well, that's a phenomenon. It's doing something. Something's occurring. Okay, great. You've fulfilled step one. Now formulate that into a hypothesis with you varying and manipulating that which you assume causes the effect of that effect in the sky. Let's see how you get on. Oh, you don't. You just make up a little story. What's that light in the sky called the moon? Well, that's there because Thea smashed into Earth. Oh, really? And you validated that scientifically because it's an effect you saw? You saw that moon from Thea coalesce? Or is it just part of a story with a timeline and absolutely no observed effect whatsoever? It's just a story. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius, as we've talked about it so much?
Only mathematical evidence.
Mathematical evidence that require a flat plane to get it?
Yeah.
Don't sound so gloomy, Baldwin.
I have an objection to the phenomenon that they can actually acquire a phenomenon, because they're going to need a description of what's happening. And every description they're going to use line on R if they're a heliocentrist. So I doubt their phenomena as well.
You're saying that when they describe the moon, for instance, it's a description that comes from a heliocentric model with R derived from a flat plane. So even when they describe their heliocentric phenomena, you're going to doubt that as a phenomena because it's described in that model. Is that what you're saying?
No, a phenomenon is something happening. The moon isn't technically a phenomenon. It would have to be doing something to be a phenomenon. And they will require R to describe it within their model.
There are certain aspects of the moon that you can describe as a phenomenon.
Well, I have some evidence for the R value.
Oh, here we go. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah. See, I know for a fact that the basis of the R value is measured daily by surveyors. They measure a flat plane Earth with elevation changes on a daily basis. And that is the basis of the R value. So that is the evidence for the R value is flat plane measurements.
I think that's it. Is that all of the housekeeping questions? I believe so. Did we cover everything? Yes, Nathan, we definitely covered everything. I've been following along. Brilliant.
Well, we finally got to them. It seems like we never finished them for a while.
Well, I think that's it. I think that concludes the housekeeping. Thank you very much.
It's becoming more concise though, Nathan, isn't it? That's why. Now that we're after kind of getting through so much of the sextant argument and we're getting through so much of our model, now everything is just going, flat plane. For most of it, we can just say, rather than saying you're going to need R for that, you're going to need a flat plane for that.
Yeah, I like that too, Brian. So there's been a radical change in the responses, the concise responses Brian's just described in terms of the housekeeping questions. So obviously, this iceberg that was the you're going to need R for that was the iceberg that hadn't actually been hit yet. Just a warning, shot across the bow, whatever you want to use as an analogy. So that shot across the bow then manifests in all of the housekeeping questions answered with you're going to need a flat plane for that. So it's a big turnaround. This is a big change to the argument structure of this show in the last couple of weeks, really. Maybe less. Last week.
Nathan, there's something I'm observing happening with the anti-flat earthers. If you can go to Master B, I posted another slide with what was on screen when Charles was in chat yesterday. Let me know when you have it.
Yeah.
So you can see here, there's chat happening below. And if you go all the way to the bottom, I say, I'm citing an expert. Listen up. Now, what's on screen is that article from that book or a page from that book where it says that, we're standing at the center of the earth and we are measuring to the center of the sun. And then he says, none of these is true. They're not listening. They're just here to cause chaos. No one's looking at all the evidence Brian, you, anybody puts up, including myself, and saying, well, I could debunk that. Well, they can't debunk any of it. It's right there. He still babbles on. And right on the screen, it says none of what he says is true about a globe and getting the elevation angle from the center of the Earth. This is why they can't be reached, because they're not here to be reached. They're not here for a real discourse.
Well, in most instances, they're just not here. And as I've said in the past, I'm happy with that. No worries. Occasionally someone will come in that wants to build up a little fence to sit on and say you can't prove anything. Well, we'll point out that you'll need a flat plane to achieve any of the models. But that doesn't happen that often at the moment, because people who are a bit more sensible from the globe side know they're going to be left in a position like that guy a couple of days ago, where you either start lying about what's required, or accept that the Earth is flat. Those are your only two options now. Charles chose to lie.
What's amazing, I'll be quick, Brian. What's amazing is that you can get a book called Nautical Science, and it goes through every part of it. And the guy says, oh, by the way, the language we use and where we say we're getting the angle measurements is not true. Well, you're going to need a flat plane for that, is what he should be saying, but he can't say that either. So instead of saying, hey, we measure flat first, then we say we get it from here, he leaves the first part out and says, we don't get it from here. Well, then where'd you get it from? From a flat plane, obviously, because that's what an angle and a 90 does and come from, is a flat plane, not a curved adjacent.
Right, so when they're detailing the measurement from the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth correlating with the flat Earth measurement they're actually going to take, we formally ask them, how can you have a curved adjacent when you're taking the angle? Obviously you can't, it's got to be flat. But how they actually take it is on a flat plane in the centre of a sphere. Well, there's a massive flat plane in the centre of that sphere working with a celestial sphere above. Well, that has been projected out onto a globe. But the measurement is still being taken from the centre, and when you look at the depiction, it's just a flat plane inside a sphere. But the measurements are being taken on the flat plane bit, because they must.
Yeah, I think like when they come up with anything official, all they come up with is a diagram of a globe out of one of the sextant manuals or something. That's all they come up with. They don't come up with anything. It's Nathan, help me out here. Sorry, it's confirmation bias. Confirmation bias. That's all it is. So that it's the same reason that while they're arguing nonsense in the chat, and you're quoting to them in the chat actual things from experts, expert navigators, and on screen in front of them is those exact references or citations, whichever. And the reason they're not getting any of this is the same reason as they don't know what the black swan argument is, or haven't known for 2 years, because they don't want to know. They don't want to address it.
It's not they don't want to know, Bri. To me, what Ten's posted this chat with Flat Earth Math kind of says where they're at. They're so desperate, they've got to do something to reconcile it in their own head, even though it's going to contradict some of the text, or contradict as least as possible, or at least be ambiguous so as not to contradict the text. And I'm going to read it. So, at 10th man, thanks for the reply, but the biggest confusion with celestial navigation. I'm not confused, but this is his resolution, how he's got to say it to himself so he can stay on a ball. Sighting the sextant is only towards the azimuth of the GP, not the actual GP. He's shown me a navigation book that says, no, we're not actually figuring out the GP. It's not going to the GP. It's just in the general direction.
They don't. I mean, it's just making shit up.
Yeah. Desperately trying to resolve it in his own head, trying to satisfy that he can meet the criterion. And that's how he's met the criterion, by coming up with that bullshit. Sighting the sextant is only towards the azimuth of the GP. That way he can reconcile it in his head, what he's actually read for fact, and how it's not commensurate with the ball.
Meanwhile, he can't measure an elevation angle if he's got a sphere beneath his surface.
We covered this in the pre-show when I showed the same slide in the more blown up image. I mean, same statement he said. Well, what's the point then, right, Adam? I mean, the whole point is that once you get the elevation angle, you minus it from 90, that gives you zenith of the body, where it's directly over the Earth, the GP, and the observer zenith, the vertical of the observer, and that is the co-altitude, and that is the measured distance. What's the whole point?
Well, what's going on with them? Sorry, thank you.
Well, it gets worse. I'll post another slide. But so the whole point is, you get the elevation angle first, right? You get the zenith distance, and then from the north, you do the azimuth for the compass bearing, so that you know where you are based on the compass, as well as distance from the GP of that sun or star position to where you are. Somewhere on that circle, you get a second one, you get a fix, you're one of two spots. That's when you're triangulating. Go on, Brian, I'm going to post another slide.
Yeah, I think we're missing something here. The reason that he's stating that the way he's stating it, and he's using all these supposed good manners while he's absolutely making up a load of rubbish and lying to people, is because on his model, he knows they can't use a chord. So that means the GP doesn't work. They need a horizontal baseline. So the GP doesn't work on their model. So he has to assert that they're kind of just aiming in the kind of general direction of where this GP may be. You know, this kind of thing. It's all ambiguous, because on a globe model, it would be all ambiguous, because the two zeniths are diverging on the globe model, and they can't use a chord because that doesn't work with the distances and coordinates. So they have to state that it's only a general area kind of nonsense. You know, so that means when the sun is at -90, right, or a star is at -90, it's not really at -90. It's just a general area. You know, this is what they're at, because they have to make it all ambiguous and poison the well, because their model is bullshit. Doesn't work.
But it's not ambiguous. We've got cited documentation. That's what 10th Man's saying. While the documentation is on screen, he's making it up as he goes along in the chat.
Yeah, but I'm saying he has to make it ambiguous. In reality, it's not. But he's making it ambiguous because his model is ambiguous, and the only way for it to even work in an imagination type way on his model is to use ambiguity. That's the only way.
Well, yes, that's true. But by the same token, they're always working from the centre of that presupposed spherical Earth on the flat plane. So they're going to need a flat plane regardless. So his description, convoluted or designed to confuse or obfuscate, whatever his motivation is, it doesn't change the fact that it's easily cited. 10th Man's given us plenty. And it's never the case that you're going to actually do anything other than, if you're on a globe and you think this is a citation that's come from the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, you're still working on a flat plane when you take an elevation angle. So it's always going to require a flat plane.
Yeah, but on their model, it only works by accident, according to what he's saying.
Yeah, but he's just made that up.
Yeah, because he's a total liar.
Yes, he's a complete bullshitter.
Hold on a sec. You got to have sympathy for him. I mean, he's in a position where he has to concede the argument before he can enter into the argument.
I have no sympathy.
No sympathy for
Hold on.
liars.
Just go through that before Adam does. John, can you explain what you mean when you say he's got to concede the argument before he can enter into it?
Right. The celestial sphere is relying on a flat plane, so he has to accept the flat plane before he can assert the sphere. It's a painful position if you believe you live on a sphere.
It is. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, it was just that simple as that. I do not in the slightest feel sorry for anyone that's coming here and lying. I feel sorry for somebody who comes here and is told certain facts and is shattered and destroyed and distraught by that prospect. I would have sympathy for somebody like that if they're engaging honestly, but I have no sympathy for liars. People are defrauding other people, lying to other people, deceiving them.
He's looking for friends, Adam. Come on, give him a break.
Regardless of what he's doing, Neil, he's lying. He's going around lying about what's being achieved because he can't reconcile his globe model without a flat plane first being accepted. That's John's point. So what's he got to do? Well, he's got to lie. That's what I've said. I'll keep saying it. They've got two choices with this argument. Accept a flat Earth because you will require one in order to make your globe model, or lie. Charles has decided to lie. It's bullshit his way around it.
Yes, I know
Well,
this, but he's
that's my-
looking for friends.
Well, that's my point. He has to lie. It's pathetic. I feel for him. I can't help.
What he's looking for is for people, because he did ask you, Neil, and Tent, didn't he, to come over to his channel for a conversation. So you can have this very social and mannerly conversation where he talks absolute total and utter crap, and he gets away with it on his own channel, and you're supposed to be all mannerly and sit there and not see through his crap and not call him out on it, and just have this big mannerly conversation that goes absolutely nowhere about nothing.
Correct, but we would wind up turning into Nathan at that point. So however it turned out when Nathan was on, that's how it would turn out with me and Tent on. But I would never go there. You desire me? I'm on Flat Earth Debate Daily.
Yeah, but with Charles, he holds himself up in high esteem because he's a respected teacher. Teachers are respected. Well, that's because you rely on them, to be honest. Well, that's disgusting. You know, when I say, I hope he has his tongue ripped out in hell, I mean it.
Okay,
I'm not
I got the 3 slides up.
I'm not going to, just before Ken says that, very quickly, I'm not going to state what these things are, but a couple of things came my way over the past few days. And it absolutely sickens me that certain things are being withheld from the general public, and on purpose by very big institutions who know they're withholding them. And they're doing it anyway because they don't want the truth to come out.
Ooh, sounds juicy.
I'm not going to talk about it now, because some of it will be coming out. But it's absolutely horrendous that people, like that there's people in positions of power. I'm not talking about the top. I'm not talking like Illuminati or any nonsense. I'm just talking about positions of power who withhold certain information because it destroys their belief system, and they don't want it out. Thanks, Ted.
Yeah, no problem. Adam, it'd be good for you to comment as well here. So it started here yesterday in chat. 10th man, agreed. Sextant is a visual angle measuring device. Absolutely. Well, I mean, this is almost redundant. Like, how am I going to use it if I can't see, right? I mean, visual angle measuring. I mean, it's not Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles using it, right? So, of course, it's a visual angle measuring. That's so fun. So I wrote, flat earth math, why take dip correction then? And then I put, you just lost flat earth math. And then, because there was some silence there for a little bit. And then he responds, because the visible horizon is below the astronomical horizon, AKA eye level, all right? Sextants can also be used with tray of oil, artificial horizon, no dip correction needed there. Did he not watch my show when I did it with Mitchell in Australia? We went through this. Adam was on the show. So this thing here where he's talking about AKA eye level, that's exactly right. And the reason you do dip with the natural horizon is to get eye level with sea level so that you can have as true a 90 as you can get. Whereas when you do a artificial horizon with a pan of oil, it's already at your eye level. You're shooting the same star twice or sun twice, and then it is at eye level and no dip required. So basically, it's the dip correction at sea level brought to your eye, just much like a bubble sextant with a level, spirit level, is going to set that baseline to your eye. The artificial horizon sets that baseline to your eye. But at the ocean, you don't have that luxury. You have to minus dip correction so that you can have that level baseline. And it's just so obvious, right? So, and then, so not visual only, geometric, pan with oil requires no dip correction. You lose again. And then the last slide. And of course, bubble sextants for use in aerial navigation needs no horizon whatsoever. Sextant merely measures an angle of elevation. And he just lost there. An angle of elevation, you're going to need a flat plane for that. let's see, go to him again. Using the tray of oil is useful when you can't see the horizon, yet the section provides a visual angle measurement, divide by 2 to get the angle of elevation. And then I wrote, bubble section works like a sphere level, also requires no dip correction. You keep losing. So you see what they're doing is they're ignoring everything in their own books that describes why you must take dip at the natural sea horizon and why you don't take dip when it's artificial or the bubble, because you already have a baseline flat at your eye level. That's the horizontal, synonymous to straight, synonymous to the baseline. But in the ocean, you can't do that. So you have to minus dip to get from your height 14 feet above the boat to sea level, then you have it. Is this clear?
So dip correction, when utilizing the horizon, is used in order to establish a flat, horizontal baseline to measure an elevation angle from. That's what you do dip correction for, to get it flat. When you don't do dip correction, i.e. using a bubble sextant, for example, you don't do dip correction because the bubble already establishes it as flat. No correction required. It's already flat when you use that tool.
Excuse me, tray of oil. He's trying to use terms that makes himself look like I'm the teacher, you're the student.
Okay, he is the teacher.
What?
That's why I'm so disgusted in his lies.
Exactly.
Well, the thing that I want to hear now, because we've made a positive claim that you need a flat baseline to get an angle, right? That's a positive claim. I want to hear them make a positive claim about the globe that they won't utilize the flat plane to make.
Well, they think they're being clever there because they think that this artificial is a tangent generating device on the top of their ball, which is absolutely fine. And there's not really a discrepancy there. We're not going to deny the physics of the way the water or the viscous fluids behaving. It's when they make the statement of why they don't need dip, lovely, but they make very, very positive assertions when they're talking about dip, why you don't need dip, why you do need dip, as to what dip is. Dip in all of their mathematics, as they bravely came out to show the matching correlations between Bowditch's tables and supposed Earth curvature, and there's a correlation there between the two. And in the later books, they fundamentally state that the purpose of dip correction is because the eye is lining up with the leading edge of a sphere. Therefore, at this point, for them to take all of this maths, and whether it's with dip or without dip, the point is it's all based on an assumption that the horizon is the leading edge of a ball. For that, they're going to need an R value to validate the way in which you would compute this. And to that I say, black swan.
With dip corrections, my Doritos will taste better, says Al Junkie. Thank you very much for the super chat.
I like that.
Well said, Adam.
Someone needs to tell Metabunk and the Davis Sextant Manual people and many others, because their geometric horizon is only in the maths. And Rumpus even states that. The actual horizon, as they state it as, is not mathematical. It's real. It's
okay, Adam, so when you describe their subversion of the reality of getting a flat baseline to measure an angle, they're saying that they're acquiring a tangent. But that tangent will still have the angles moving to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Therefore, you've still got a flat base in the middle of the sphere. Correct?
Yeah.
So it still needs a flat Earth, regardless of them saying, with a bit of obfuscation, that no, our molasses or whatever we're using to establish a artificial horizon is actually giving us a tangent plane to a sphere Earth with the angle moving to the plane we will draw out at the centre of that presupposed spherical Earth. It's like, no, that's actually the celestial sphere and a flat plane measuring it. The fact that you can depict the centre of a sphere with you standing on it to make an angle measurement and just say, well, you're not really standing on it. Well, that's where the angle's going to. And you've got an angle measuring device to get it. So where's the only acquirable point? Well, it's in the centre of your sphere Earth on a flat plane. That's what's being done.
Sorry.
None of their angles, all of their stuff only exists, as Brian's saying, in the maths. It's not just the horizon that only exists in the maths. It's the angle in the way in which they're using it only exists in the maths because they've acquired it on the surface and they're then going to translocate it to the center and use it there. It doesn't exist there. That place doesn't exist. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't, and it does, because what they're saying is at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, when they describe a flat plane that will give you the angles, they're just transposing the celestial sphere onto the flat plane that the measurement comes from, and then saying that the celestial sphere is actually representation of the ground you're standing on. So once you've got your head around the fact that the flat plane in the centre of the sphere is where the angle actually comes from, you can say, well, that's where you're actually standing then. And where are you standing? On the surface. So this bit at the centre of the model is representative of the surface. And it's a flat plane.
Yeah, because they cut it in half. They cut the globe right in half.
Yeah.
Because
what they're actually doing, just what they're actually, very quickly, and I'll leave you back in, what they're actually doing, it's subverting perspective and calling what they're seeing an arc. That's the start of their begging of the question. They're calling what they're seeing an arc, and by ignoring perspective. Go on, Adam.
Oh, he's getting into it. Adam, you're off mute, by the way. You've presented.
Oh, yeah. I'm just... Nathan makes a great point there. You see, that's exactly what they do. This is what you do. You take your readings on the surface, okay? And then what they do is, oh, look, that's no longer your sphere of vision with your celestial sphere to take your azimuths and that. That's now the center of the ball. And that's now the Earth. And that's why it's so easy for them to balance it in the head, because that's kind of what they allow your brain to work like that, as if that's what's happened. But in doing so, you see, you've gone to the center of the Earth, but look, still at the center of the Earth, how you have to calculate this angle. You have to generate a flat plane around the equator, look, chop the top of your ball off to take the angle, just like you're doing on the surface. See, it's just optical trickery. It makes it look like it's from a ball, but it's not. This is a sphere of vision. And then they take it there, and as Nathan says, fundamentally, look, even if you take it to the center of that ball, you have to lock the top off to create a flat surface to generate the angle from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's working off a flat plane. So if you say, where am I measuring these angles when they work in this depiction? Well, I'm measuring the angles on the surface. And when they correlate to this depiction, the surface is this circle in the middle. That's what you're actually measuring. So forget all this crap around the outside. It makes no difference that they're claiming that's the ground, because the actual measurement is on this flat surface in the middle, because that's where the angles go to, the surface, and that's where you're measuring them. So this represents the surface.
Nathan, 2 last slides before you round off the show, please. Adam, be keen to...
I have something quick to say, Tent, as well, very quickly. How did they get their distances to the GP of Polaris to create their globe?
Off a flat plane.
Yeah.
All right, so you see here, this is a diagram of an artificial horizon. And that artificial horizon that you see in the solid base there, dark coloring, is level. And you're shooting the sun here, for example, against itself. And the H is where your eye is. And so you're creating a horizontal level at your eye line. And you have to half the angle because you're shooting the same thing twice. Now go to the next picture. Was an artificial... let me show this and you can comment. So next picture shows an artificial horizon of black glass. Got 3 knobs that you can make set level because it has a bubble level on it. Go ahead, Adam. It's pretty self-explanatory from here.
Before you do, I'm just going to shout out Godzilla37 for the super chat with dip shet correction. I don't know what that means. The chat would be empty of ballers. Okay, thank you for the super chat. Go ahead, Adam.
I think it's dipshit correction.
Oh, dipshit correction. Yes,
It wouldn't
yes.
be I.
Good. Go ahead, Adam.
It was first of all the slide that's up. Yeah, I mean that's what you're using to generate your locally flat plane. Not so much by the balancing really is to cope with the simple fact that you've only got a shallow tray. So you balance it, don't you? And then the way in which the fluid will behave will create a level surface for you to do off. But if you just go back to the previous slide.
Adam, just remember, this one is not the one with the fluid. This is the black glass.
Sorry, so it is for that. Yeah, well, the fluid ones also have those little dials just to cope with the little, because you're using it out in the open just to help you cope with volume. But so that one has to be accurate, doesn't it? Super accurate. The point I wanted to make was just this, just showing you with regards to how, if we're going to have an artificial horizon, it limits the use of the sextant. As 1090 summarized, you're shooting the same thing twice, so you have to line it up in both mirrors, and that limits. You can see you've got to cope with the angle above and below your horizontal, so it limits the overall amount of angle that you can measure with your sextant. But that diagram just demonstrates it nice how you're measuring the same thing twice and why it halves your capacity of your sextant.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, smashed the PayPal link, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!